Hi there, I'm Bevan Thompson and welcome to the Wellbeing Whizz Omnicast. What is an Omnicast? Well, an Omnicast is a video podcast. It's also an audio podcast. It's also a blog on my website. It's many, many things. It's more than just a podcast, basically. And I'm the Wellbeing Whizz. I'm an anxiety coach who helps people manage their anxiety and start to live a better life. Now, what qualifies me for this, you're asking? Well, I used to suffer very badly from anxiety myself around maybe 10 years ago. I had all the symptoms you could think of, the sort of sweaty palms, the dizzy head, the random thoughts, racing thoughts. It turned to depression. It was essentially a living nightmare. And I spent a long time with doctors going through things like hypnotherapy. I tried tablets. I tried a lot of the different solutions. And I found the only thing that helped me was starting to go back to the start, work out how my thoughts worked, work out how they were creating my emotions, how I was creating this anxiety. And what I did, I created a framework and kind of cured myself. That led on to me thinking, hang on a minute, other people should benefit from this, and the Wellbeing Whizz was born. I set up as a coach, helping people manage their anxiety and helping them live a better life, as I say. The Omnicast every week is about sharing tips about this, interviewing other people about their anxiety, me talking about ways to understand anxiety and how to cure it, and essentially just a place where you can learn more about anxiety itself and sort of sharing a lot of people's experience with it. Welcome to the Wellbeing Whizz Omnicast episode 18, and we are continuing with Fierce Female February, even though it's March, which is a little strange thing. A lot of people have really enjoyed the interviews we've been doing with these fierce females, and I said, you know what, let's carry them on into March. So today on episode 18, I've got a great guest. We've got a lady called Rebecca Barr. She is a mindset and business coach. She's also a mom. She's also an entrepreneur, a businesswoman with several businesses, I've just found out. And well, it's great to have you here. Hi, Rebecca, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. What a great intro. Yeah, so essentially I just like to do all the things
All the
and I like
things.
to involve myself in everything. So that's kind of how I've got to where I am.
That's the best. I found, you know what, at the moment, everyone's lucky to have a few different things on the go in case, like you make, like we were talking about before, in case your main thing collapses, you've got a few things going on, and that's always useful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I always encourage people to have more than one revenue stream. Absolutely.
Oh, they will.
And that's kind of something I specialize in actually with my clients. So I work with female entrepreneurs that are perhaps completely burnt out from their current like businesses, which is definitely a place that I've been before. But rather than sort of scaling down the dreams and the ambitions and just sort of going for an easy life, I do believe that you can have it all. It's just a case of making sure that you're working in alignment, having proper structures and processes in place, and exploring every opportunity for passive income streams. So it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And then you can also have 100 children like me and get involved in absolutely everything. It's great.
Superwoman. There we go. Amazing. So we've got loads to talk about today. So you know what the podcast's about, and you know what I'm all about. I obviously manage people's and help people manage their anxiety, talk about anxiety on the podcast. Is it something that you've kind of experienced in the past or had sort of flirtations with, so to speak?
Oh, definitely. I think not necessarily at a point where it has absolutely stopped me from moving forward in life. I'm very fortunate with that, but I've certainly dealt with nerves and imposter syndrome and situations where I'm entirely out of my comfort zone and absolutely winging it and just constantly pushing myself forward. So it is uncomfortable, but I've kind of accepted that that is part of the journey. And when I am in that state where I'm feeling super uncomfortable, that's where the growth happens. So I almost welcome it actually, rather than, because I think what's the alternative? It's that I'm totally bored, disengaged, I'm not challenged, or, I'm not growing, I'm not doing anything exciting. So I always see it in a positive light, to be honest.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I tell you what, I
that's
love
probably
that
just
already.
me.
It's going to be an excellent episode already. It is that. I love that. Yeah, because anxiety is just a normal emotion. Anxiety, it's like all the rest. I tell my clients, like joy, it's like happiness, it's like anything. You're going to get some in your life. It's about learning how to manage it. It's about seeing it for what it is. And like you just said, without it, you wouldn't be pushing the envelope. You wouldn't be like sort of, trying your hardest. That's really interesting. So how have you seen it manifest in your work then, sort of anxiety in general, or even imposter syndrome, things like that?
Well, I think I have essentially had so many different like evolutions to myself and to my journey. So even just moving into the corporate workplace, that's not an environment that's, obviously before I was a business owner, that wasn't something that I was used to. I didn't come from a family with any money or ambitions or success. So just being in that environment was so alien to me. I instantly felt intimidated. Everybody was younger than me. You know, I had really awful bosses, which just, you know, but I always think that that's a good experience in the sense that it helps you to earn your stripes. Once you've dealt with horrible bosses that you just probably wouldn't get away with saying things now, like, you know, that was a good learning curve for me. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks. So yeah, so and then obviously I've evolved from there. So I became a business owner, not necessarily again through my own choice. That was kind of the universe taking matters into its own hands, and essentially I wasn't able to work. So I've kind of mentioned it before, but I didn't necessarily have any ambitions to be an entrepreneur. I have to be honest. I'd always be the person that told you that I'm not very good at sales, and I don't really want to work for myself, and I'm not very creative, and and I had all of these beliefs about myself and my capabilities. And then literally, so I'd followed a very corporate career path into HR. I became a HR manager. I was very diligent, did the right thing. You know, very great employee, I have to say. They were very lucky to have me. But but I was a single mum, and I had 3 children that were under 4, so only one of them was at nursery. And fortunately, my mum was my caregiver at the time for the children, which, you know, I'm so grateful for, because it meant that I could sort of skip off to work, safe in the knowledge that they're probably actually in safer hands. Because she was the kind of mum that I wanted to be in that situation. That, you know, she loved cleaning, loved messy play, that kind of thing. Probably actually did give me anxiety at home.
Messy play always gives me anxiety. It's just the worst.
I know. And anybody that buys your children felt tip pens or Play-Doh, like literally, they're not your friends. They're absolutely not your friends.
You always find it's the relatives or friends that don't have kids that buy them noisy toys.
Yes.
I found that when kids were little, it was always like, oh, I see. I can tell you've not got kids buying him a drum kit or a trumpet.
Yeah. That person is always my brother, and he always likes to introduce like slime into the house. So it's quite exciting, because he's just had a baby. So I'm like, amazing! I've got so much waiting for you. Yes.
Slime and drum kits galore are going towards his house.
So literally I turned up for work, and obviously I guess that probably is a place where I did feel a little anxiety, in the sense that I always felt like I had to be very apologetic for the fact that I had children. And this is one of the reasons why I kind of feel so strongly and so aligned with Jessica Cunningham, obviously, from the Conscious Female Entrepreneurs, because she really changed my perception of what a businesswoman looked like, what was acceptable in the working place. But I really felt almost apologetic for the fact that I had children. You know, I never took I didn't take much maternity leave at all. I didn't request flexible time. I would still be doing my early mornings, my traveling, my late evenings, and it was just that sort of pressure that I felt that I had to keep going. And it's not our problem you had a baby, and it's not our problem that you're a single mum, and it's not our problem that you would probably want to pick your kids up from school and you can't. But so essentially, sorry, long-winded, but I went to drop them. Really
useful stuff, this, for people who are
I had a really early morning meeting, so turned up at my mum's house at 5 a.m. I mean, who would actually want to see me at that time anyway? But she was just such a saint, and she'd be like, that's okay. And she'd had a stroke. And literally, it was just a case of, I can't have the kids, obviously. And that was the end of my career, literally just like that. You know, I tried to work with my bosses to see if there was some sort of flexible arrangement, if they could allow me some sort of time to sort of alternative childcare. But the reality was, you know, 3 children in full-time nursery or whatever, it just wouldn't have been affordable. And, you know, it was just completely out of my reach. So then that wasn't something that I prepared for. It wasn't an ambition that I was like, oh, amazing, this is my moment. It was, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do now?
There's like, a bit of anxiety for you. Yeah, my world's collapsed almost.
Yeah, literally. But I think with everything in me, in like common themes throughout my life, you know, I've had a really turbulent childhood, sort of quite similar with Jess's, very traumatic, you know, abuse, abandonment, like all of these things. And I think to some extent that was my saving grace, in the sense that I always had a great sense of perspective. But equally, I never had it in me that I could ever give up, because it was ultimately me, myself and I. So, when things happen, I never had that option to curl up into bed and sort of, just sort of reflect and feel sorry for myself. I just didn't ever have that luxury. And in some ways that's a good thing, and in some ways it's not, because obviously you need to heal and reflect and take time to recoup. And it's something that definitely bit me years later when I essentially had a burnout as an entrepreneur. But that's where my journey began. And again, I didn't see it necessarily as a negative. I mean, I had to sell my house, because obviously as a homeowner, you're not really eligible for much support in terms of benefits. And literally that was the end of the world that I'd built and everything I knew. Like, I was just so intent, coming from a really poor background. All you ever do is idolize people that have these really shiny, glittering careers, and you assume that that is where things are safe, and that's where you're going to earn the money that you deserve, and you're going to change your fortunes and your life for your kids. And then when all of that's taken away, I'd only just sort of qualified 2 years before, and that was 5 years of hard slog as a single parent. I graduated 6 months pregnant with my youngest. Wouldn't even let me walk across the stage. How rude, because they were scared that I might fall over in my heels. They were like, we are not insured for this. I know. I was like, what if I take my shoes off? Even though I'm a very short person, and pregnant, it's not a good look. I just look like a Weeble.
I love these moments we could clip for the future, and I just look like a Weeble is definitely coming in the show notes.
There's a good soundbite for you. So I literally put my heart and soul into this career and this company and this life plan, and I had it all figured out. And then literally it was all removed from me in just one sort of, I'm just going to pop to my mum's in the morning. But it set me on a path that was even better than I could have expected. Obviously, then I sold my home, brought my own business. So I bought a barber shop, and I relocated. So I literally went all in. So I went from Hertfordshire to Surrey, didn't know anybody, didn't have any support network, had 3 children under 4. I did have a business partner, which was my partner at the time. So fortunately, although we weren't partners at that point, we were just sort of really good friends. So it was an unknown leap. And that was probably my greatest moment of anxiety, because it affected my children. And I thought the decisions that I'm making now truly are life-changing. And, what does that mean for them? And am I doing the right thing? Like, God, the weight as a parent to not ruin your children is just immense, isn't it?
It's almost too
much. I found it hard to choose their first names, let alone,
You're talking to someone called Bevan. Imagine, if you will, the pressure of choosing a child's name when you've lived your entire life with people going, "You are? Are you serious?" So yeah, and then to like, it's like I'm letting you into a secret here, like everyone's listening. I'm like, my middle name's John as well, so my parents called me BJ Thompson. It's just not pleasant.
Oh no. Well, my daughter's Amelie Burke, so her name is A. Burke. Had to think long and hard about that one.
I best not laugh. She's in the club. The bad names club. But no, it is even that, like you say, the anxiety of being a parent, and that kind of whole, the pressure and the weight of expectation and the comparison you feel, and is my child talking yet? Is that the right time? Is they walking at the time? Are they learning the alphabet? It's constant pressure, and to have that alongside moving to a new place, changing career, crikey, like you did it all at once, eh? Let's get it all.
I've always kind of been like that. If you're going to do something, you might as well go the whole hog and go all in. Yeah,
you're a heck of a poker player. All in.
That's it. Yeah, it's quite funny actually, because someone asked me, like, if somebody made a film about your life, what would it be? And I was like, well, it's either going to be Bridget Jones or it's going to be a Carry-On film, because that theme, honestly, is just, you can't even write it. If I ever write my life story, people are going to be like, no, I don't believe it.
I'd so watch that. A Bridget Jones Carry-On hybrid. Oh, I'm in.
Especially a barbershop as well. Can you imagine? Like, I've got no experience in hairdressing, and it's all men who are just like, well, how the hell are you the boss? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're all like 6 foot something, massive tattoos, really cool, like indie barbers. And there's me like 5 foot, tiny. That's like, if you could this would be really lovely. And I know you've been doing your job for like 15 years, but I thought it'd be really great if we did this. And they're like, no.
So why did you, this is really
Okay.
totally off the ball, but why did you choose the Barbers if you'd never done it?
Because it was just a ready-made business.
Oh,
And
right,
it
it's
was,
already, I see,
so
right.
literally, yeah, it was just a business that was already established. It had a really great customer base. And why Kingston? I didn't know anybody here either, and neither did my partner. He was actually from a different part of Surrey. So, but we were just like, it looks really great. You know, the shop looks great, the location looks great. Winging it. That's, you know,
All
I'm
in?
sure that's all they cover on The Apprentice.
Wow.
Like, don't look at me with my business acumen of nothing.
But isn't that such a
Yeah.
great inspiration for people who are listening? Like, you think, you know, you have those moments where you're like, my life's collapsed. You know, your mum's you're not well, you've lost the job that you thought was the sort of almost be all and end all of it. And all of a sudden this entire new door opens that you would never thought you'd ever get in. If someone had said to you a year before, you know, you're going to be running a barber shop, you'd have probably laughed at
Yeah, I would have absolutely laughed. I'd be like, what do you mean? And also, I was never that. I was just so ingrained in doing the right thing and what I thought was the right thing. I never would have taken risks like that at that point. I wasn't conditioned in that way. It was all about being super safe, playing small, you know, making sure that you had your pension and you save monthly and you don't live beyond your means, and you know, you get your holiday once or twice a year and you're grateful for that. And yeah, it's just like the universe was like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to give you that. We're just going to do this.
What game show is that? We're not going to let you have that. Is it Millionaire, isn't it? That's it. They didn't want to give you that. But yeah, that's it. You're conditioned from a very early age. And I was the same. My mum was a bank manager. My dad was a civil servant. It's like, you turn up, you get your money, you go on your holidays, you pay your mortgage, you're a good boy, you do exactly what you're told. And it's that shift from that mindset to an entrepreneur mindset it's massive. It's like you're leaping off a cliff.
Oh, 100%. And I was also a person, even though I worked in HR, that really needed to be liked. You know, I hate to tell people what to do. I felt really uncomfortable about that. And I am a bit like that even with my children, which my partner just pulls his hair out because he's like, you've got to lay down the law. And I'm like, but I don't want to suppress their personalities and I just want to let them be them. And I'm just here to nurture. And I'm like, and he's like, oh, for God's sake, just give them a bedtime. I'm like, but you know, you have to appreciate they're all individuals and they're going through, you know, different stages. Like, I don't know if it's just me wanting absolutely no commitment or responsibility for how they turn out. I'm not sure, or just minimal responsibility.
I didn't give up that time. Wasn't my decision.
Yeah, or I am just a really nurturing person, and I'm just really intuitively led. I'm not sure. We'll see. I guess in another 10 years.
I'm sure it's the second one. I'm absolutely sure. So. So leading on to like your coaching side and what you do is like a mindset and a business coach, what would you say is has your past sort of led to
oh, absolutely, yeah.
And what's like your sort of, what's Rebecca's secret sauce that you sprinkle on things to make super
well, I think I did everything the hard way, and I definitely learned all the lessons in terms of, you know, I come from a very corporate background that was also very masculine led because it was a construction company. So I was one of 4 women in a company of 1,300 men. So I've been used to being very direct, very focused, very goal orientated, and I almost prided myself on that approach. And that I just was so out of touch with my femininity that I was like one of the guys that I spoke one of the guys. I'd worked like I had no commitments at home, and I almost prided myself on that because it was an identity that I'd attached to my job and to myself. And then as I became a business owner and I realized actually that, you know, I could be the nicest person in the world. People are not going to like me anyway because I pay their wages and because I'm telling them what to do and because it's just the culture to moan about your boss, isn't it? So
absolutely, yeah,
and I just kind of
yourself on your own. I can moan about myself, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But I just kind of, all elements of ego and needing to be liked and everything else just ultimately fell away as the more years that I was in the business, and the more that people came and went, and I started learning lessons for myself and sort of getting that self-confidence as a person that you know, you may have been barbering for so long, but I've been in this location for so long and I know this client base and and I really got to know my business, that gave me a new sense of confidence. But then when I looked around at other small business owners in the high street, so I feel quite passionate about physical businesses in the high street, but also other women that I knew that were entrepreneurs, and everything was very much about a side hustle and a bit of pocket money. Like, nobody seemed to really want to become the main income earner in their house, or to earn the six figures, or to do the work necessarily that it takes to get to that point. And I just felt a bit disappointed, really, and I thought, I need to start inspiring people and breaking it down and some of these societal conditioning, so that they know that it is possible for them. So I'd already started to venture into some elements naturally of coaching. I think it's just because I'm bossy and can't help myself. So I started in that sense, already mentoring students at the university and get involved in females in business programs sort of locally with the Chamber of Commerce, and then I met Jess. And so that's Jessica Cunningham for the CFE.
It was on last week. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So she actually came to me as my business coach, and this was a few years ago now, because I was looking to open a ladies' hair salon, and just as another sort of element to my business. I had really big ambitions, and then as we went through the process, I realized that it's just a case of me wanting to necessarily, I've seen an opportunity and I want to go with it, and it would make good business sense. But actually, the more I went through the process, I realized that it doesn't make me happy, and no amount of more money is going to make me happy if it's in the wrong business. And I went through a process of burnout. So I started the salon anyway, because that's the kind of person I am. I've started, so I'll finish. And then I think literally within 6 months, I had invested my heart and soul, and I lost my business. Yeah, so literally I'd done everything wrong. I'd put all of us in, I had 1 day's maternity leave with my last baby, and I think the universe always knows when it's the right thing for you and when it's not. And when you go into something that isn't with an intention that's aligned with your values, it's never going to work. And I've learned that the hard way, in the sense that I felt a sense of duty, and I've taken on staff. It's a good concept, so it should go ahead. And actually everything in me was saying, but it's not, yeah, it's a good concept, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And yes, there's a gap in the market, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And I was a bit like, no, I'm just going to carry on regardless. And it literally just didn't work. And there's no rhyme or reason. When I look back now, I mean, obviously the fact that the high street is declining didn't help, but we had the best branding, we had the best strategies, we had the best sort of ethos and everything else, services. I'd invested so much in the best staff, but ultimately the people that I was bringing in weren't aligned with the brand and the vision, and they didn't want to work. So every time I wasn't there, they would be taking selfies, they'd be taking extended lunch breaks, and that's essentially why it wasn't for me, because I knew at that point I don't want to work 7 days a week, and I don't want to be here 7 days a week. I don't want to be just doing all those hours. And for somebody that would be their absolute dream, but for me it wasn't. And I'd sort of become more comfortable with the fact that I don't need to do all the things, because I've not got to prove anything to anybody now. Actually, if I want to spend time with my kids and I want to have a bit of balance and alignment and be bloody happy, that's okay. Like, who am I doing all this? Who am I being a martyr to? And hustling and grinding, who says I have to do that? I don't have to listen to anybody else's perspective of what a businesswoman should be. And it was only when I was working with Jess that she essentially gave me permission to she's like, I've got kids. I don't work 24 hours a day, nor do I pretend that I am, nor do I, have ambitions to build businesses that would require me to. So if you don't want to do this anymore, there's absolutely no shame in it. And essentially I lost the business. And that again was another point in the universe where it was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? Because it was really sudden, where literally it just got away from me. And it's something I really hated talking about, because I saw it as a point of shame, and that I'd lost a business. So can I claim that I'm a successful businesswoman? I still have other businesses that are successful, but that one in particular was like a real sore spot, because I'd put my heart and soul into it. But then equally not really, because it wasn't, as much as I put all my great ideas and creativity into it, it wasn't aligned with where I saw my life going. If anything, I want to work less, I don't want to be working more. So I don't know why I'd built a business that would require that level of commitment from me. But again, it turned around really quickly. So it went from it's okay if we just, you know, have a really great month, we can turn it around, to oh my god, if we don't draw a line now, we're going to have bailiffs at our home. And that was for me like really sobering, where I was like, look, it just doesn't matter about me anymore, and I don't care if people think I'm a failure. You know, I've learned a lot through this process, and just obviously had to draw a line. But equally, I had no backup plan, because I also had the faith that it would work out. So again, it was another turning point from the universe, where it was like, we're not going to let you have that, we're going to take that away, and you're going to start again. Because I'd already sort of signed over the other businesses to my partner, so I was like, wow, now I really don't have a bloody clue what I'm going to do. And that's where coaching kind of came in for me. I had a bit of a breakdown, had like a real emotional burnout, because like my mum passed really suddenly. So it was like a series of unfortunate events. This is what I joke about. Whenever anything happens, I never do we're not just going to make you lose your business. No. It's a bit personal, but my sister was also sectioned, and she has 2 small children. So I became like guardian of them. So as the business is going through the final stages of like wrapping it up and letting the staff go, I'm having to cart around 2 children that aren't at school with me, protect them from bailiffs, and you know, all of this just absolute nightmare. I know I'm obviously devastated, because I'm thinking like, I've let my kids down, you know, that was our financial, like part of the financial plan, and you know, and I'd put my personal money into it, so I'd compromised our family, really, you know, dipped into my personal savings to pay people's wages, because I just wanted to do the right thing.
You felt responsible and felt like you wanted to do the right thing. I do the same. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was super fun. And then obviously my mum passed, and it was again as sudden as what had happened before, in the sense that, you know, I saw her one day, and then my brother phoned me in the evening. It was like, I've tried to call mum and I can't get hold of her. Shall I just pop round, because I'm starting to feel a bit weird? And literally she'd had a like a massive heart attack that we weren't even aware of. She wasn't even sick, but it was super sudden. So she would have been dead before she sat down. And that was, for me, just the absolute turning point in life, in the sense that I am no longer doing anything, but not one thing, not one more day that doesn't serve me, because I still felt like she had so much more. Like even the day before, she was like, oh well, when I get a bit more money, I'm going to do this, and when this happens, I'm going to do that, and if I could just sort the garden out, I'll be happy this summer. And just, I mean, her dreams weren't big, don't get me wrong, she wasn't a big thinker.
It's that kind of, it's that stop living for tomorrow, like start going for it now. We're only here for a slot of time, and if you spend every day going, tomorrow I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that,
you've got to be happy in the moment, in that every single blooming day is important and it counts. And that for me was the turning point. And I literally I gave myself, like this time I gave myself a little bit of grace. I think it was like a week to cry and to sort of mourn everything, because it was the mourning of everything. And I also lost a baby. I was pregnant at the time, so, and I broke my hand also. It was just literally, you could, and then I'm trying to like one-handed deal with the kids and everything else, and my sister's children, and you know, just this overwhelming sense of like, oh my god, I've completely mucked it up and everybody's going to be affected, and so I felt like that for like a week, and then I was like, do you know what,
a week,
I really,
it was just a week, it's just like,
I know. But I really leaned into my spirituality, and that is essentially what saved me. And I thought, everything happens for a reason. I have not come this far to only come this far. Like, there is a bigger plan here. And I think all of the, you know, even from like early childhood suffering, abuse, that's something that could have left me at a point in life stuck, and that could have been my identity. But I had enough determination and fight in me to think, this is not my life. This is not who I am. It's not going to define me. It's not going to affect my future. And I gave myself permission in that moment as well to do the same again. I've had to reinvent myself several times throughout life, but thank God that we get that chance to do that. And I'm still not even 40, so I'm planning to annoy my kids till I'm like 90, 100 at least.
Yeah,
I'm like Madonna. I could reinvent myself 50 times between now and then.
I'm going to be this really annoying old man. That's my plan when I go.
Yeah, that's my ambition in life, is to also be smug and annoying. So I'll be like, oh, your kids are really annoying. Oh, what a shame. They won't go to bed. Oh.
That's the next reinvention. That's the smug you.
Yeah.
Like you say, your story would be amazing.
I know. So that's where I kind of leaned into my coaching, and I just really stripped it back to basics. And I thought, if I didn't care what Susan on the school run thought as to whether I was a successful businesswoman or a local business owner, what would I do? And without judgment, and if it's going to work or if it's not, I was like, the only part of my journey recently, like in the last couple of years, has been coaching other women and empowering them and seeing them sort of flourish. I was like, that is what actually really brings me joy. And Jess was one that really encouraged me to get into coaching. She's like, you've got that natural sort of heart-led approach, and I've got good business acumen aside from what happened with the business with that one. Yeah. And funny enough, do you know what is so weird is that I spoke to, I was listening to a podcast, and it was Simon Cowell was on it, and he obviously explained about how he, you know, I mean, I think we can all say how successful he is. And also right. Richard Branson. I was listening to something with both them, something else on it. And obviously Virgin has had more failures than successes, but we only ever hear about the successes. So no one remembers Virgin Cola or Virgin Brides or like their space program or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's ongoing, isn't it? But they've had like a couple of accidents or something. Yeah, but it's about like a space tourism thing.
Yeah, but there's loads of things that he launched out of, you know, because he had that creative desire, but it had no, you know, business foundation, and it didn't work. And the same with, so I listened to this podcast with Simon Cowell, and this is what really truly made me lean into my spirituality. And it was all about how he'd lost his first business and in his 30s, and essentially had to start from nothing again. And I was like, wow, if this story doesn't resonate from me. And he'd had to get a cab home to his parents, and he wasn't sure if he could pay for it. Like, that was all the money he had in the world. And obviously from there, that's when his life began. So that really resonated with me. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to manifest a meeting with Simon Cowell. I'm going to tell him one day about how much that story meant to me, because it's just that sometimes you can hear things at the right time and at the right moment, and it just hits you. And I thought, yeah, actually, I've earned my stripes as a businesswoman. This makes me better as a businesswoman, because I've learned all of those. I've gone all in. And now I realize the places where I probably shouldn't have gone on in, but you know, I've done it with conviction, and I've learned everything. Like, I've literally, the good, the bad, the ugly, I've experienced all of it. So I'm not a fair weather businesswoman that's only ever had the good times and never really put any skin in the game. Like, I've literally had it all. And you never guess what happened. I told you can't write my life story. I was in Harrods like a week later, not because I can afford Harrods, but because they sell really good cupcakes. When I was pregnant, I was obsessed with it, and my partner was like, do you want me to take you to Harrods? I was like, can we? I was like, that would make me feel so happy. Like, the cupcakes were amazing. So we were like just having a little mooch about. Guess who I bumped into? Simon Cowell. I saw him in Harrods, and I was so excited. My partner was like, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare. I was like, I've absolutely got to tell him. Yeah, he must have thought, oh my God, where is my security team? Because my energy was literally through the roof, and I was like, oh my gosh, I manifested you. He was like, bless him.
This woman tears up to you and goes, I manifested you. Yeah.
I didn't get a picture. I was really upset, but I was just like, I had all this energy. I had to tell him, and I literally told him, and he was like, absolutely. He was like, do you know what? I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in being an energetic match. Like, honestly, like, he completely agreed. And for me, that was like a little nod from the universe. Like, we've still got you. This is all part of your bigger plan, and you're still exactly where you need to be right now.
What a great story. I love that. I reckon that's the last scene in film one before, but in trilogy, the sort of, you meet Simon Cowell.
Me rugby tackling Simon Cowell in Harrods.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, because it's Bridget Jones meets Carry On. So yeah, he probably falls down a set of stairs, falls face first into a cupcake. I don't know, we're going to have to work on it.
We'll have a little bit more for dramatic effect.
So what, now you're in coaching and you're a coach yourself, what's like the biggest myth about coaching that you'd like people to stop perpetuating?
I think it's when people always tell me that they can't afford it. Like, I can't afford coaching, and it's almost like, but you can't afford not to. Like, because you're just taking all of the shortcuts. Like, any athlete, and most men will invest in expertise when they need it. So if an athlete wants to improve their performance, they get a coach. And like, my partner's invested in personal trainers and people that he thinks will enhance his performance in some way. Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how effective that was, but you know, good for him. He's following the things that light him up. But for us women particularly, we really struggle, and especially when we're solopreneurs, on like, you know, small business owners, female entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to do it all. And that's what I love about the Conscious Female Entrepreneurs membership, is essentially it's a shortcut, but it's also recognizing that there is strength and power in the collective mindset. You know, two heads are always better than one. And I think, you know, it's just sometimes you need people to tap into the potential that you don't even see in yourself. And that's what happened with Jess. You know,
almost like that third party sounding board, that someone noticing something in you that you've not noticed, someone picking those, like you said with Jess, you know, working with you, she noticed certain skills within you that have led to your career now.
And that's something that I wouldn't have even thought about.
I would never... You use the word allowing quite a lot, and it's someone else allowing you to sort of, you know, make those decisions. Say, what would you do if you didn't think you could fail? That kind of thing.
Giving yourself permission, absolutely, to just have a go and understand that our lifetime, please God, is going to be a very long time. So if it doesn't work out, what's the worst that's going to happen? So you've got a couple of years of really funny stories like me, like when I found like staff members getting up to no good when I'd popped in to cash up. You know, I wouldn't have got that in HR.
That's going to make a great scene in the movie. I'm looking forward to that bit.
Yeah, definitely. And because suddenly I become very motherly and very sensible, and like, do you know how unhygienic that is? That's obviously my main concern, like the disapproving glare.
Pour Barbicide on it, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that absolutely cures everything, by the way. It's amazing if you read the label.
That for COVID, I don't know. Yeah. So talking about your career, I think we've talked about a lot of people actually already, but are they sort of 3 people who have helped you in your career or your personal development so far that you'd like to sort of shout out and say?
Shout out, even though they probably never know, because one of them is Oprah. But you never know, might be able to manifest her. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me particularly as well, you know, in order to safeguard my mental health through the years and as part of my journey and transformation, you know, I've always recognized that you're the sum total of the 5 people that you spend your most amount of time with. But sadly for me, it wasn't a loving, supportive family that, you know, had ambitions and dreams. Like my mum and I sort of reunited when I was an adult, but I didn't grow up with my mum. I lived with like aunts, friends of family, parents, and none of them shared the same values or dreams, but I just always knew that there was more out for me. More for me out there. Sorry, I always knew I was meant for more. And I'm not going through this right now because I was a really bad person in a previous life and I'm just being punished. It's actually, I knew that there would be more to it. So I used to listen. So surrounding myself daily with other people almost became like my go-to, because even as I got to my 20s, it's like I was always super ambitious to have this, like, it's almost like if I ever dared myself to dream, it would be a life that was a bit more than the ordinary. But I always seemed to attract people that were just very safe, like just very, like even going on holiday in my 20s, I had to go traveling on my own and with like partners and stuff, because my friends were just never that ambitious. It was like, we can go to Magaluf, we can go to Tenerife, but if you're talking about Brazil, let's not get crazy. So it's like I just never surrounded myself with those people. So I would constantly be listening to like YouTube and podcasts and audio books, and just knowing that I am not going crazy. It's just I'm surrounding myself with the wrong people, but you know, I love them and I just need to find a way to protect myself from their energy, but understand that just because what they're telling me is right isn't right. I can listen to my own voice and I can find the people that are my tribe and do understand my ambitions. So I used to listen to Oprah a lot because this is something that's really important for me, actually. Obviously, she has a kind of similar, turbulent childhood with abuse. And she always said that she just knew that that wasn't her life. And there's so many points in my life where I'm like, I am not meant to be bankrupt and living on the streets and on benefits. And no offense to anybody that is, but for me, my money and my time and my freedom are my greatest luxuries in life, and I will safeguard those to the death. Mm-hmm. You know, that for me, coming from a childhood where I had no rights and no personal freedom or control, I value that more than anything now. So I didn't want to be on benefits where people tell me how much I can spend on a weekly food shop, or where my children will have to go to school, or where I will have to live. I just didn't want to sort of, you know, I just couldn't accept that. Actually, my grandma used to tell me that about, you know, she said, the only thing I can ever say to you, like the thing that kind of sums you up is like, grant me the serenity to understand the things that I cannot control and the wisdom to know the difference. Like, that was never me. I just could never accept anything that I was told. So Oprah, definitely, because she was one that, you know, just had come from such great adversity, but knew that that wasn't her life, knew that she was destined for more and felt it in her soul. So I really like aligned with her. So I always listen to Oprah. Obviously, I mean, who wouldn't? Oprah is
I'd
like
like to get a couple of quid behind her at the bank as well. That wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, like, and I love that she always helps people, and you know, I thought, God, that's somebody that values really align with me when I'm really successful. I'm going to be like Oprah. I think definitely Jess, obviously, because again, she gave me permission to embrace the fact that I am a bit crazy, like as in a bit bubbly, a bit outspoken, high energy, and where I'd come from a really corporate background where that was always like tried to be stripped out of me, and it wasn't deemed to be professional and sensible and blah, blah, blah. It just felt so nice and refreshing to be with somebody that's like, no, you go all in. That's what makes you.
This is one thing I've found with moving from corporate into coaching, you know, into you can be who you are, and actually it becomes your brand and it becomes what you're about. And you're not, to use my grandma's phrase, keeping your light under a bushel anymore. God, that's so old fashioned. But do you know what I mean? You're not hiding that kind of any parts of your personality. You're not having to conform to any kind of corporate. The corporate look is you, and it's what you want it to be. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I've really enjoyed it.
And it's also a wealthy woman, not necessarily looks like you, but you know, looks like me. So that's something as well.
You know, Connor looks a bit like me.
But yeah, it's understanding that we can literally, you know, whatever definition of success means to you, it can come in whatever form you want it to. You can control that. Like, you are the master of your destiny and the driver of your ship. I don't know. What's the word? I don't know.
Pilot? No, I have no idea. That's a good question.
Captain of your ship. I'm like, what is that word? What do they do?
Pilots.
And I'm pretty sure that they don't drive a ship like this, like they're on a bus.
I'd like to watch one being driven like all over the place.
Can't think why everyone's been sick. And then I would probably say, like, all the horrible bosses and women that I've encountered in business throughout the years that have just sort of really, for me, cemented my moral compass, in the sense that I do not want to be like you. But thank you so much for the lesson, and thank you so much for this experience. And it's sort of given me resilience and made me toughen up and maybe set my standards a little bit higher. And you know, I had one boss, and she was just so awful. She used to literally like, whenever I go in, because I'm like a young kid, so my version of like what you know, a corporate woman should look like is like Melanie Griffiths from Working Girl in the 80s. Right. So I would be like really dynamic, like shoulder pads and like, you know, just crazy, really cringe things, trainers with my pencil skirt. And she would be like, oh my God, like, what are you wearing? Like, da, 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 da. But I really learned, like, I learned banter, and I also learned to stick up for myself and just sort of, you know, think, I don't care what you think. But I think if she hadn't said it to me directly and in such a like aggressive tone daily, I don't think I would have ever really picked up on that. It would have been like a secret insecurity that I perhaps had, because you can sense what people are thinking. But it gave you that chance to think.
Gave you an insight to what it really was. Yeah.
So I was like, really, is that all you? And if that's all you can say is that you don't like me wearing trainers with a pencil skirt, that's absolutely fine. Like, that's not a problem. I can live with that.
Is that the worst you've got? Yeah, really.
Yeah, that means I'm doing something right, so that's fine. And I do think you have to earn your stripes sometimes with these people, as you're finding your way and finding your voice and what makes you you will encounter these absolute morons that just sort of really cement that, actually, I don't want to be like you. That's great, thank you so much.
I've been reading a book about that recently, and it's like I've always thought, you know, focus on positive things, what you want to be, and a girl called Sarah Knight has written a book, I can't remember what it's called now. It's about giving a shit anyway, excuse my friend. Her big point was, use the sort of negative stuff as like almost revenge fuel for what you want to do. And I always thought, well, you know, look at things positively, and it's gone against what I've been saying to people. But actually,
is that being like a bit toxic?
Don't want to be like gives you an idea of what you do want to be like. So in a way, it is right. And it's funny because I've just finished a book reading about exactly the same thing. So good little segue into the next bit, actually.
Yeah, consider me a nudge from the universe that you're on the right direction, by the way.
I'm getting good at this. Talking of books, is there one book that you sort of really enjoy that you'd suggest our sort of watchers, listeners should get hold of and read?
Absolutely. I have got it here.
Actually. I love it. Everyone's got props. Whenever we do this, I've always got props. It's very exciting.
Actually, I've just realised I put my laptop on top of it. so I don't have it here.
It's got a point,
particularly during the pandemic, particularly because I'm pregnant at the moment with my fifth, and my first trimester has literally thrown me out of alignment. I've been so sick, never really experienced it with the others. So I sort of approached my pregnancy with a mentality like, it's fine, I can do this, no problem. And then obviously I got COVID over Christmas. So going from like a bug to horrendous morning sickness to having COVID, and then just literally taking so long to recover from the exhaustion, I really lost my mojo, and I sort of stopped doing the daily practices that helped me to stay in alignment. So essentially everything I teach my client now is about working in your feminine energy, not about hustling, grinding, doing the things you think you should. It's about building your business around what's important to you and making sure that every day you're in alignment. So not doing all the things if you don't want to, it's just doing the core things that are really going to add value to your business. But I'd essentially forgotten all of that. So I wasn't doing my daily gratitude or my affirmations. I wasn't spending any time on myself. No time to think. So literally every day I was waking up in the morning and then obviously feeling super sick, so losing time. And then by the time I got over that, it was like, wow, and the day's underway and we're off. And I'd had no time to sort of center myself in the morning. So now I'm in the second trimester and I've suddenly got all this like great energy. I've been getting up again at 5 a.m. and this book has really helped me support sort of cement the power of our minds. Obviously I practice NLP, but every night before I go to bed I always tell myself, because it was a really hard slog, like I was so out of practice and I really struggled for the first few days, and I was like, oh my god, if it's going to be this hard, it kind of goes out of everything that I'm saying about, you know, business shouldn't be hard. But I just now tell myself every night before I go to bed, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel super refreshed, I'm going to have all the sleep that I need, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to get up and have that time to myself. And I have, and it's been absolutely fine. I've got straight back into the routine. But that book just really like explains in layman terms how powerful you are when you set intentions, how powerful your mindset is when you command the things that you want it to do and respond and know, but also the benefits of, you know, taking control of your day and starting every day with purpose and intention, and being the captain of your own ship.
Pilot of your own boat. And what was the title again? I missed the title.
Yeah.
Right at the start. You cut out right at the start, so I missed the title and the right.
Oh, sorry, it's The Morning Miracle. But it's The Morning Miracle, but I also read the 5 a.m. Is it the 5 a.m. club?
5 a.m. club.
Robin Sharman. Yeah, I've started reading that one as well, but that one's more of a story. So I'm sort of simultaneously reading both, but just to try and reinforce myself that this is what I want and this time is important and I need to re-establish this habit that I'd got out of the habit of. So, and it's just been amazing. Like, honestly, my energy's through the roof. My focus is on point. My business has grown because I'm more centered and I'm more structured and organized. And yeah, it's all just great.
Brilliant.
Definitely try that one.
5 a.m. club gets mentioned. It's been mentioned by, I think, the last 3 people have been on as well. I must read that.
Really, it's so important.
There you go.
Yeah, so many people I talk to about the pandemic and how are you coping and this sort of thing. It's all, you know, they're really down and they're really sort of aimlessly plodding through the days. And I think that's when the time really stacks up. And I'll always say to them, what time do you get up? And they're like, well, I just sort of get out whenever I feel like it. I'm like, what plans have you got for the day? Well, I don't really have any plans. And it's like, but even if you haven't got to go to work, you're still important. Like your development, your growth, your enlightenment, your joy is important. Plan that into your day, you know. So yeah,
that's a good top tip, that. And actually,
yeah,
segueing again to the next question, I've done this before, you know. Is there a top tip that you'd give people to sort of improve their life in any way? Is that it? Is that the top tip?
I think so. I think for me, I've really lent in spirituality, and that is something that has really helped me in the sense that everything is part of a bigger plan. We don't necessarily have to have all the answers now. You know, personal development is a journey, it's not a destination, but it's just that we're not here to, like, sorry, I'm sort of going into lots of different topics, but I think it's just understanding that we're not here to survive and get through our lives. It's to thrive and be all we can be, you know, and just sort of evolve into whatever's coming next for you, and just letting it be, like, just keep following the things that light you up and be happy.
You know, this is probably one of the most inspirational chats I've had on this. It's great. I just love the fact that, you know, you seem to have risen over and over again, and that's something that's really important, especially for people who are suffering from anxiety and depression, the sort of things I talk to my clients about. It's that if you've got someone that you can look at and think, crikey, they've been there and they're there and where they are now, it's that having someone to look up to almost, and look toward, and say, you know, wow, if she's done that, then, you know, you can do anything. And it's good. And to have you on here and being so positive and so happy about where you've ended up, it makes it, so I'll be pleased for people to hear this, because it's quite important. And I'm hoping that the fact that my neighbours are drilling next door is not sort of cutting out your but
well, I can't hear it, so it's fine.
That's all right then. If you can't hear it, it means it's not coming through the mic. That's great. I'm big into time travel. It's one of my big things, and I always ask questions about time travel. If you could go back in time and ask and sort of give a piece of advice to 20-year-old Rebecca, what would you say to her?
I think it would be just to sort of take a moment to think about, actually, is this what you want really? Like, before I set down that corporate path and put all of my energy and sort of into, you know, building a career that wasn't necessarily going to go anywhere, but equally, I don't think that I ever would have been fulfilled in that role, actually, when I reflect on it now. But I just didn't give myself permission to dream at that age. I just felt like your 20s, for getting your head down, earning the money, getting a house, like just sort of, you know, putting all the foundations in place so that you can have a really great and affluent 30s. Whereas now, when I look at the millennials, or I think it's millennials, isn't it? Like the 20-somethings now, are they millennials?
To me.
Yeah, like I speak to obviously a lot of women, and a lot of them are a lot younger, and they have a completely different mindset to us. And I think, wow, if I had that mindset and I'd given myself permission to work for myself, like that was never even an option that I would have even thought about or considered. And yet I've proven that I'm far more capable than I ever would have told myself at that time. Like, if I put that level of commitment and heart, I've always had it, I just gave it away to everybody else. If I put that into my own business, like, where could I be now? How much further on in my journey could I be? Would I even live here? Would I be living somewhere abroad? I'm sure my life would have turned out completely different. As much as I'm grateful for the journey, but it's like, that's the only thing I would have said.
It's giving yourself, again, it's about giving yourself permission, isn't it, back in the age of 22 to go, like, no one I knew, my granddad, he was a businessman, but he owned a shop. So it was like, I never saw that as being, what I saw as a businessman was like suit, top hat, you know, it was like Mr. Monopoly almost.
Yes.
It was, for me, they were other people. Like when I was growing up, so I had to go and work for one of those business people rather than be that business person. And I know what you mean. It's giving yourself that permission to say, no, you can be one of those.
You weren't looking to emulate Melanie Griffiths from Working Girl then, no?
No. Well, that's on a weekend. We've discussed that before. Okay. I like this question. In fact, these are my last two questions. You'd be pleased to know. You'll be able to go and grab some lunch or whatever. What's the one question?
Is that because I'm pregnant and I like to eat?
No, it's just because I know that my kids will be like scratching at the door soon, going, "Where? I've had all the snacks. Now where's the lunch?" What's it with snacks in lockdown?
It's so true, isn't it? I was literally negotiating through like a crack in the door the other day because I was on a live. I was literally like, "Just have whatever you want."
It's that. Do they give them snacks at school? Because like literally, my daughter's constantly like, "Oh, I could do with a snack." I'm like, hang on, this school budget must be massive, the amount of snacks.
I know, but I have also introduced like 11s and like afternoon tea and all this at the house as well.
There you go. We're on Dairy Dunkers and you're on afternoon tea and 11s. I see. Anyway, what's the one question you would have liked me to ask you, but I haven't?
Probably. Oh, I don't really know. I think I probably told you more than you wanted to know anyway. But I think
brilliant.
Yeah, I think manifestation and spirituality and feminine energy and divine energy and understanding our personal powers, I think that's something that needs to be talked about more, because again, it's not something that I ever heard about before I met Jess and fell down the rabbit hole of spiritualism. But it's amazing how much we already know ourselves and how much we just need to listen to our intuition. So I think anything around that and just sort of leaning into to those inner voices, not the critics. Obviously, we don't listen to the, excuse my French, the shitty committee. We ignore those. There's nothing there's nothing constructive about them at all. They just have time on their hands. But yeah, all the other little voices that are like, oh, I'd quite like to do this. Wouldn't it be great to do that? Do it and see what happens, because you never, that's where the magic is, and you never know what's going to happen.
Magic's just over that cliff, isn't it? So it's just
obviously don't invest your house and everything else in it necessarily at the beginning, but you never know. It worked out for me.
I've got a question for you, but I'm going to ask you I'm going to wait for your question in case it's the same one, because it might be. So you know, on my podcast, I have like a guest's chain question. The previous guest asks you a question, and then you ask a question for the next one. And last week, obviously, we had Jess on, and she asks if what was it now? I'm trying to get the wording right. If they took something from you, that's it. What's the one thing that you wouldn't like taken away from you, and why? What's the thing you can't live without, basically?
Oh, definitely my family. Like my kids, I'm weirdly obsessed with them. It's just, they are my greatest joy. I know, they're all like, oh my God, you again. Even my toddler who's 2, he was like an absolute mummy's boy. He's like, enough now. Yeah, she says, mummy, enough. I'm like, you know about 5 words, and that's one of them, really? That's where your development went. Bless him. He's like, enough now. But honestly, like, they're my moral compass, they're my joy, my gratitude, everything. And they've given me, again, so much permission to lean into what makes me happy. You know, for years, if I didn't have them, I think I would be like, oh, you know, feeling the pressure of I should work more, I should do more, I should da-da-da. But now I'm like, no, like, they've given me such a bigger picture about what life is about. And you know, how happiness, that's my success. Like, am I happy? Are my kids happy? Have we got a beautiful home? Like, gratitude, all of that, it's all come from being a mother. And again, knowing like your capabilities, because it's amazing what I can do with one hand while breastfeeding a baby.
That's going in the notes as well. That's fantastic. Yeah, I like that answer. That's great. In fact, kids have taught me an amazing thing, as well as how annoyed I can get over strange little things, and how much my dad I am.
Is that light switches and heating?
We're not made of money.
No, don't say that. You're giving them limiting beliefs around money blocks.
This is my dad. You see, this is where it all comes from. But yeah, I found myself. I didn't realize how much I was like my dad until I had children.
Yeah, that's when I always say that to my partner. Actually, I was like, oh my God, you're such a dad. And I'm like, he's like, well, you're such a mum. I'm like, I'm not like a regular mum. I'm a cool mum. Like like Mean Girls. And my kids are, my oldest daughter's like 10, so she's actually watched Mean Girls, because I forgot about how sexualized it is. You know, I just thought it was a really funny Lindsay. I know.
Now, it's my secret thing. I'm a big fan of Lindsay Lohan. It's not become less secret because I've mentioned her on the podcast about 50 times already. Because
and so, you know what's really funny is that my daughter, we were out somewhere, and there's a line in it where it's about something about being half a virgin, and we were watching it, and my daughter went, oh mummy, she's like you. I was like, what? And she went, you know, because you only eat meat every now and again, like you're vegan. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, my daughter asked to watch it the other day, and I was like, I mean, I've watched it a lot. But I
hadn't watched it in years. I forgot how inappropriate it was.
No, do you know? I said, you know what? You probably wait another couple of years yet to watch that. I don't want to be faced with the questions, really.
Yes, and there are a lot of questions that come out of that film from a 10-year-old.
Not furlough anymore, and so she's back to work. So yeah, she can deal with the questions when she's here. Brilliant. So, what's your question for next week's guest? I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm just going to.
So I guess I'm always interested in, what does success look like for you? That's always something that really interests me. Like, I really love to understand like people's motivations and their end goals, and when they feel like they would have achieved it. Like, when are you going to be living the dream? Like, what does success mean to you? Because I think it's different for all of us, isn't it?
It is. That's a brilliant question. Oh my word, that's going to be that could be an entire podcast. That.
There you go. Oh, see, basically what I've done is just pitch myself as like a really caring contributor.
Our show would be great. It'd be fantastic.
I was looking for a business partner.
Hey, this could be. We'd be talking for hours. We don't get anything done.
Yeah, true.
My question for you would have been, actually, who would play you in the movie, this Bridget Jones crossover? Carry on.
God, Well, I'd like to think it was like Jennifer Lopez or Catherine Zeta-Jones, but it would probably be like somebody, I don't know, somebody who doesn't look anything like that.
I'm trying to work out
more like
the bit part of me interviewing you about it. Yeah, I'll work on that. I'll come up with something. I had my glasses on the other day. Someone said Greg Wallace. I was like, oh, cheers. Anyway.
Perks. Think of the perks everywhere you go, the great service you would get.
Oh yeah, good quality food. Yeah, just turn up and go, lovely, get me that, smash it.
Yeah, I think you should lean into that.
Lean into the Greg Wallace vibe. Brilliant. But honestly, I am so appreciative of you coming on and being so honest and open and just being yourself. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed it, and I think people get a lot from your story. I really do. It's been great.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me permission to be me.
Oh, anytime at all. But thank you so much.